Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I am so happy to introduce U.S. Soccer's next sporting director, Matt Crocker. As you all know, he brings a wealth of knowledge, having worked at various roles and at various levels of our game. He will set the sporting vision for U.S. Soccer and implement the technical plan for the women's, men's, extended, and youth national teams. His impressive resume speaks for itself, and I know some of you that are joining us today have already written about his great resume. Matt has great experience in developing talent, implementing a clear and consistent playing philosophy from youth to senior teams, and implementing coaching programming. So after spending some time with Matt, it quickly became clear that he excels in communication as well as being a team builder. He is driven, he's creative, and committed to building relationships at every level of the game. His passion for the game, his experience, and expertise will make U.S. Soccer better. And we look forward to working with Matt and achieving great things together. Over to you, JT.
Thank you, Cindy. We're incredibly excited for Matt to join us. Matt will officially begin his role on August 2nd. But in agreement with Southampton, he will be able to immediately focus on two areas. First, he will support our women's national team as they prepare for this summer's World Cup. Second, he will lead the process of hiring the next U.S. men's national team head coach. Matt has already spoken with Kate Margraf, Anthony Hudson, and Stuart Sharp, who oversees our extended national teams. He plans to meet with Vlatko and the broader sporting department team in the coming days and weeks. Matt's experience and expertise will be a tremendous asset to all of us at U.S. Soccer, and his appointment will benefit the entire soccer ecosystem. And as a fan, I couldn't be more excited for the future of our national team programs. Welcome, Matt.
Thanks, both. First of all, I'm really honored and excited to join U.S. Soccer as sporting director. It's a tremendous opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to building on the great work and the foundations that have already been laid, working with the staff, in what is a really exciting opportunity. As JT mentioned, the immediate focus is going to be around supporting where I can the women's World Cup team as they get ready for Australia and New Zealand, and I'm really conscious that I guess I work really closely with Kate and the staff in the build up to that. Obviously, the senior men's World Cup is around the corner, and to have the opportunity from the beginning of the role to lead the search for the next men's head coach is a significant honour and something I'm really excited about. I'm also excited about working with the whole of the US soccer ecosystem, coaches, the community, all the various professional leagues, etc. So I just can't wait to get started and to kick off as soon as I possibly can.
Great. All right. Thank you, Cindy, JT, and Matt. We're going to jump into questions. The first three will be from Doug McIntyre, then we'll go to Paul Tenorio, and then Henry Bushnell.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you doing this. Matt, welcome. Question for Cindy or JT, and then one for Matt. Cindy or JT, just if you could take us through the process. How many candidates did you interview? And how important was it, if at all, to hire someone from outside the American soccer landscape? And for Matt, just jumping straight to the coaching search, do you have a timeline? Is it possible hires made before you officially start on August 2nd? And does the nationality of the coach matter? Would you prefer to have an American or someone that's has experience coaching in the U.S., or does that not matter to you at all? Thank you very much.
You sure you don't want to throw more questions in there? JT, you want to kick it off?
Oh, thanks. So, at the very start, when actually we were joking about this morning when Ernie called and let us know that he was planning to return home to the Netherlands. We knew that this had to be a very broad-based search, a global search, and one where we ensured that we had the most diverse talent pool from the get-go. And so that's one of the main reasons why we partnered with a search firm to help us do that. So we started with a list that had dozens of names on it and whittled that down and ultimately unanimously put forth Matt as our candidate, and we're excited to introduce him today. I don't know if there were other questions for us or whether that.
It was all to Matt.
All to Matt.
Yeah. Thanks for the question. Yeah, I mean, the most important thing, clearly we want to get a head coach and the right head coach to lead the program in place as soon as possible. But what we don't want to do is to rush and make the wrong appointment. And there's a couple of key factors that I believe are going to be really important going forward. So first of all, the behaviours of the coach in terms of, I guess what I see from the current team is an aggressive, a forward-thinking, a fearless team that went to the World Cup and did some great stuff. And I'm really, really keen to make sure that we produce a coach that can replicate and continue to drive forward some of those behaviours in terms of creating that aggressive, forward-thinking team. Secondly, the style of play is going to be really important. Clearly, there's been some great foundations put in place by Greg and by Anthony around the style of play, and we want to continue to evolve that style of play. So to bring a coach in that can deliver that is also going to be fundamental to the process. The third, and for me the most important thing, is around leadership. We need the right leader. We need the right head coach to come in and give the players ownership and responsibility to build a really, really strong culture, or to continue to develop that really, really strong culture. And coaching internationally is very, very different to working every day on the field with a team, a club team. And some of the unique skill sets around being able to contribute to other things, supporting players when they're in their clubs, building those strong club relationships, MLS relationships, etc., making sure things like collaboration and cooperation around player release are going to be a fundamental part of the role going forward as well. So, they are the most important factors, irrespective of where somebody is born, and we need to make sure that we put those at the forefront. Clearly, there's some significant advantages around building emotional connections with the players. We clearly want a head coach that is a role model and a cultural leader as well, and can inspire the next generation. So the legacy piece around the future is as important, if not more important, than build up to the next World Cup.
Great. All right. Thanks for those 8 questions, Doug. We'll move on to the next group of questions. Paul Tenorio, you are up next.
Thanks. Just to follow up on one of the questions for JT and Cindy, if you could clarify how you whittled that list down, how many people actually reached the interview stage with you guys before you made the decision to go with Matt? And then kind of 2 questions for you, Matt, to follow up. There's 6 weeks away here from Nations League, about 8 weeks away from the start of the Gold Cup. Unique opportunity for a new coach to potentially be with 2 different schools of players for a good amount of time. Is the goal to have somebody in time to get that time with the team, be able to kickstart? And then for you also, why U.S. Soccer? I've heard there might have been interest in you from other Premier League teams as well. After you announced the league, Southampton, what was it about this job that intrigued you?
You start.
Yeah, I think if I start with the exciting bit around the role, so, as I mentioned, it's an incredible honour to get the opportunity to sit here today. My history with US Soccer goes back a long way, so I actually had my first ever coaching experiences out in the US, based out of, first of all, Little Rock in Arkansas, when I came over for a few summers. And then,
You even said that with a southern accent.
Yeah, I was going to say the accent.
Y'all.
Yeah.
And then leading on from that, had the opportunity to spend some time in Kansas City with the Lewisburg Legends, under 12 boys and under 12 girls team. I'm sure Melissa Murphy and Laurie Ewald, who were my 2 captains at the time, will hopefully be watching and probably really surprised to see my ugly face on the screen. But, my history goes back quite a long way. And, to then be contacted and had the opportunity to come and interview for the role, I just wanted to make sure that I put my best self forward, shared my experiences. I also know that there's some fantastic work that's going on in the men's senior team, the women's senior team, the extended national youth, the extended national teams, and obviously the youth programs, both on the boys and the girls side. So, to have the opportunity to step in and build on those foundations and be part of that and listen and learn in the early months to understand the landscape is something that is really exciting. And then obviously you've got the amazing tournaments that are around the corner, the Men's World Cup, the Olympics, hopefully, fingers crossed, the Women's World Cup as well. So, I'm really excited about being able to play a small part in that in the coming years to come. But the real thing for me is around this legacy piece. So, to try and support US soccer becoming the number one sport in the US is something that is a huge opportunity and something that I'm really, really excited about.
Yeah, and I'll chime in on the process. So we whittled the list down to, I believe, 10. And we had various levels of conversations with those 10, and then move forward with formal interview process with, I believe, 7 candidates.
Okay, great. Before we get to Henry, the next 3 will be Kyle Bonagura, Jonathan Tannenwald, and Ron Blum. Henry, you should be up next.
Thanks, Neil. And start with and apologies in advance if there's any noise or Wi-Fi issues. Well, for Matt, as you mentioned your history there, and since then, more recently, while you were working in England, how much did you stay in touch with the U.S. landscape? Maybe not necessarily in communication, but just understanding what was going on here, the changes in the youth landscape, and or like how much catching up do you feel like you have to do, given that the way, especially youth soccer is done here, is a lot different than in a lot of other countries?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the question. And yeah, I mean, my priorities in the past couple of seasons has been in England, working in the Premier League, but obviously working also across both the men's and the women's team and the youth programs at Southampton. So, first and foremost, my focus has been on that. However, as I mentioned, the US has always been a passion of mine, and I've always followed the soccer. So, to see the developments in the MLS, to see obviously the new teams coming into the franchise, the development of stadia, the MLS Next programs, the academy development, I've seen that from a distance. I've also been close enough firsthand to, when I worked at the English FA, to play across both the boys and the girls side with the US national teams and to see the development. So in particular, that 2000 age group that we played in the World Cup and the 17 level, some outstanding talent, and obviously many of those players have now gone on to make that jump through into the seniors. So, I've watched it from afar. Clearly, I've got a lot to learn, both in the men's and the women's game. But to have the opportunity already to hit the ground running, I've already met Kate, and I'm expecting to do the same very soon with Vladko. So had some time yesterday with Stuart from the extended national team. So yeah, I'm really excited, but I'm under no illusions of what I need to learn, and I need to learn quickly. But the joy is there's some great people already in US soccer with those experiences that I can tap into from day one.
Great. All right, we'll move on to Kyle.
Yeah, Matt, I'm curious what you feel like the changing perception has been of the way the U.S. men's team plays in Europe, and kind of just what how people view the team, where you're from, and how that's evolved over the years. And then just on top of that, where do you plan on being based? Is it going to be in Chicago or somewhere else? Thanks.
Yeah, so I'll deal with the second one. So yeah, I'll be based in Chicago. So frantically trying to find somewhere to
I already
live.
sent him some recommendations from having just gone through that search.
Yeah. So that that's a key priority as well, to get settled as quickly as I possibly can, to enable me to focus 100% of my time on the job. And what was the first part of the question again? Sorry.
Perception of the U.S. men's team from Europe.
Yeah, sure. So I think what you see now is clearly a very young, dynamic team. So, being the second youngest team in the World Cup, and to be able to give 25 out of the 26 players World Cup experience, because obviously 25 of those players hadn't played any World Cup experience before. Some of the, when you look and analyse some of the goals that were scored, so, you consider the goal against Wales, the team has got the ability to counter-attack really fast. So the ball's 8 seconds with the Welsh keeper, and then 8 seconds later, Weir's making the run from outside to in to score a fantastic goal. So, the team are capable of being a really front-footed, dynamic, fast attacking team. But what you also saw is moments where the team are comfortable in maintaining momentum in the game and controlling possession. those moments against England where they took the sting out of the game and were able to control the play for at least a minute and over a minute with really good possession. So you've got players who are comfortable and confident at being able to technically manage the ball. So, straight away you can now see a dynamic, forward-thinking team, but also a team that has got the ability technically to deal with those pressure moments. And hopefully now leading into 2026, the team have had some great experiences and psychologically will be better prepared going into 2026. So, we are going to be a nation that is going to be feared and, a nation that wants to move forward into a home tournament that we can really attack. And obviously the fans, the community have got a great part to play in being our 12th player behind the scenes. To have the opportunity to do that on home soil is really, really exciting.
Great. We will move on to Jonathan Tannenwald.
Thanks, Neil. Hi, everybody. I'm Jonathan Tannenwald from the Philadelphia Inquirer here. I think both of these questions are for Matt. The first one is that on the men's side of things, multinational player recruiting is a key piece of the operations. Do you intend to take the lead on that or delegate it to somebody else? And if the latter, will that person be a new hire? And on the women's side, the U.S. team's success that you mentioned watching from afar at BFA inspired a lot of people in England, as we all know, and that culminated in some ways with the Women's Euros title. As you watched the England women's team develop into a team that won the Euros, what out of that, what it took, do you think you can bring back and translate into the U.S. soccer? Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. It's really difficult dealing with these multiple questions, by the way, but
I'll do my best.
I'll do my best. The dual nationality is a key part of international soccer now, and we are in such a diverse country, and we have such a unique opportunity to make sure that we tap into that as a significant resource. So, first of all, I need to understand what we've already got in place from those processes, because I know Anthony in particular has done a great job on that side with some key work recently with some players. So, again, to have the opportunity to follow up with Anthony again and to build on that. For sure, it's going to be a key part of our program going forward, and we want to make sure that we tap into that as much as we possibly can. The international landscape has almost become like a club environment where there is an opportunity to sell a pathway to a player and to really build those emotional connections with the country. And we're really, really determined behind the scenes to grow that and to continue to develop that. And then on the women's side, it was a huge honour to be part of the 2013 when I joined the English FA, to look across the men's and the women's side, to look to build a DNA and a style of play and a culture around the whole national programmes, and to be a small cog in the wheel that enabled us to be more successful in the future at that moment in time. And seeing the success and the development and the growth of the women's game in England, has just been exciting to watch. And I guess 12 out of the last 13 years, the US women's national team has had an unbelievable record of being the number one team, number one FIFA ranked team in the world. But that gap is getting closed all the time. There's more professional leagues across Europe and the world now. There's more, the players are fitter and stronger because they get to train every day in a professional environment. They're more tactically aware because they get the time to work, and obviously they're technically better players. So, that gulf of the chasing pack is right on our heels, and it's really, really important that I work with Kate and Vladko and all of the staff to make sure that we continue to identify what our competitive advantages are, and we continue to focus on those things to keep us ahead of those chasing packs.
One, to add on to the first question, one of the things that excited, many things that excited me in the process around Matt, but as we think about dual nationals, making sure we're thinking about dual nationals not just for our men's program, but our women's program and our extended national teams. We have a full recruiting effort across the board that we want to be great at. We've made a lot of great progress on that, and that's something that as more and more people are playing soccer, and obviously, Matt mentioned how diverse we are as a country. We want to make sure that we are the place where people see their pathway to develop as elite soccer players, and we want to be able to do that across the board, which we're excited about.
Great. We're going to move to Ron Blum next, but before we get to you, Ron, the following three will be Alexi Lalas, Andrew Jones, and Mike Waitala. Ron, you're up.
Okay. Hey, Matt. You mentioned some of the accomplishments accomplishments of the U.S. team at the World Cup. Do you think Berhalter deserves to be considered for another chance, or are you more leaning toward the need for a new break? And a few months ago, when you interviewed Jesse Marsh for Southampton, what were the things that intrigued you, and why ultimately did you decide to go in a different direction?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's really difficult to be able to give you some definitive answers right now. I think what we're doing is, as I mentioned, working to make sure that we've got the right process, to make sure that we can make the right hire as quickly as we possibly can. And I'm really working closely with Cindy and JT to speed that up and to make sure that the process is in place. As I mentioned, my biggest focus right now is not thinking about any individuals. It's about thinking about the behaviors that we need, the style of play that we want to promote going forward, the type of leader that we want to bring in, and then obviously that legacy piece that we want to instill and have the opportunity to grow into 2026. It would be unprofessional of me right now to talk about individual names. I mean, Greg has done a fantastic job, and I intend to follow up with a number of candidates, both internally within the organisation and externally, to begin to understand more and to assist my learning as well. And I'll be doing that as quickly as I possibly can.
Great. And we're going to move to Alexi, who is going to get us back on track with one question.
I'll try. Welcome and congratulations, Matt. So I recognize and respect your answer may change as you get, as you continue on here, and more importantly, are in the belly of the beast, as it were. But I'm assuming that your mandate is to improve on the good and change the bad here. So relative to that, also in your interview process, I'm sure you were asked, even from afar, what that good and bad was. Can you give us two specific examples of the program that you saw? I get it from afar, of what is good and what is bad. I'm not talking about U.S. women winning the World Cup. That's too big, but as specific and detailed as you can get. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, if I focus on the good, first of all, the most important thing and my passion is player development. So, to have the opportunity to come on board and to help support what is already in place in terms of a player pathway. So, making sure that we've got a clear identity of how we want our teams to look on the field, to make sure that we've got a strong culture off the field, in terms of the type of young men and young women that we want to help grow and develop within our system, is fundamentally really important. So to have the opportunity to contribute to an aligned pathway that sees players progressing from our 15s all the way through our system into the seniors, is something that I see some great work going on already. But also, I'd like to think I've got some experiences that might be able to help support some of the great work already in place. And it's really, really difficult for me to pinpoint right now where some of the challenging areas are. But what I do know already through my conversations with Kate yesterday, with Stuart, is I do think there's some, I guess I'd call them low-hanging fruit, some real opportunities for us to develop and push some stuff forward. But again, I'm really keen to make sure I don't dive in and think I've got all the answers. It's never a lift and shift when you come from one organisation or one association into another. For me, I really need to spend some time understanding context from some of the brilliant people in the organisation, and I'll be doing that as quickly as I possibly can.
Great. We'll move to Andrew.
Thank you, Neil. Congratulations, Matt, on
Thank you.
this whole day. Congratulations to Sydney and JC on this process, leading towards this. You talked about in terms of the collaborative nature that you've seen from U.S. Soccer, from Sydney's leadership to JC. What were some of the things that impressed you most in terms of the collaborative nature that you saw that was under Ernie with Kate and Brian McBride? And if there will be any time frame for you in terms of a new general manager for the men's team after Brian McBride is of departure? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the multiple questions again. My brain is okay. Look, what excited me, so having the opportunity to go through the process with Cindy and JT, I guess what I saw is a lot of excitement. So to the ability to break barriers down, to break traditions down, to move the game forward, to take on this new challenge. The word that kept being spoken about was legacy, the opportunity with the key tournaments that we've got coming up and the great programs that we've already got in place to continue to grow, US soccer from a grassroots level, but also through into the senior professional game. So, two guys who gave some real passionate speeches to me around the opportunities and the things that we're going to go after. So for me, they were the things that most excited me and got me sort of hooked in. And then for me, it was just about, could I show that level of excitement and experience back to be the best candidate, which is what I've tried to do, and I'm fortunate enough to be sat here right now. And again, what was the second question? Apologies.
GM for the men's team.
Yeah, again, without context, without being in the environment, without listening and learning from the key staff, it's very, very difficult for me on day one to say, yes, we need a general manager, and when that'll happen, I want to really listen and learn. So, I'm going to take some time first to make sure that we get the right structure in place, and I'm looking forward to doing that with the staff as quickly as I possibly can.
Great. Mike, you're up next. Before or after we get to you, Mike, we're going to go to Jeff Kassouf, Kyle Bond, and Charlie Bohm.
Hi, Matt. The U.S. population under the age of 18 is about 26% Latino, and in recent years, on the men's side, the youth national team rosters have been about anywhere from 25 up to 40% Latino. How familiar are you with Latin American soccer? What is your opinion about the Latin style of soccer, and how does that demographic impact you as you set the sporting vision for U.S. soccer? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I mean, as I mentioned, there's a lot of things about US soccer that I need to learn and I need to understand, and that would be one of the significant landscapes. You've given me a statistic that I hadn't researched yet. So, as I mentioned, I've got a great amount to learn in a short space of time, and I'll be doing all I can behind the scenes to pick that up. But as I mentioned, what I want to make sure that we've got is real diversity across our teams. It's about the best players being picked for the best teams at the right moments in time. And what we want to do is to make sure the most important part is the pathway. So we want to make sure our selection process is right at the very, very youngest ages to make sure that the players can grow and develop with us. And I'll be doing all I can behind the scenes with the staff to support that process.
Great. We'll move on to Jeff Kassouf.
Thanks for taking the time. Matt, I'm wondering on the women's side specifically, there's more in place, right? There's a GM, a coach, a World Cup around the corner, versus the men's side where you have hires to make. How do you envision sort of balancing bringing new ideas and maybe implementing those to a program that's been winning and has sort of a really defined DNA and has for a long time, and just maybe as you do that or just as you work with them, how do you think you can apply approaches sort of universally to the men's and women's side, or do these programs maybe with different histories and at different points, need separate approaches in some way?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think there's definitely similarities, and already, to be able to be in Chicago where the men's teams, the women's teams, the youth teams, and also the extended national teams are all rubbing shoulders, coaches sharing ideas. There's a huge opportunity for collaboration, and I already see that happening. And speaking to Kate yesterday and Stuart, those things are already taking place. So we're in a really strong position to start from. In terms of the women national teams and success, yeah, there's differences in the program. So you've got a team that is world's best and has been world's best for 12 out of the last 13 years. And then you've got a men's team that is a young, dynamic, forward-thinking team that has achieved some success in the last World Cup, and we want to build on that. So the programs are in very, very different places from some perspectives. So, there will be some slight differences and some competitive advantages for the men's and the women's game that we need to separate and go after. But again, as I mentioned, for me, it'd be wrong and silly of me to come in and think that I've got all the answers. I haven't. But what I know I've already got in place is some great staff who, and also a women's program that, like I mentioned, has been world's #1. And what I want to make sure that I do is to continue to challenge and support that program. But for me to do that, I need to first of all get in, spend some time with the staff, spend some time with the team, spend some time in and around the environment, listen and learn, and then hopefully when there's the right opportunities hopefully add those little bits of value that hopefully I've gained through my experiences of 25 years in professional soccer.
Great. Up next, Kyle.
Thank you, guys, and hi, Matt. Congrats on the role and
Thank you.
appreciate your time today. You made mention of this briefly earlier in the call, having worked across both national team and club levels in the past, now looking to hire the coach on the men's side. In your experience across both, what are some coaching qualities that you found can play well specifically on the national team level as opposed to the everyday club level?
Yeah, I mean, I think I touched earlier on leadership. So, when you are in a club environment, you have the opportunity to work on the grass or on the field every day with the players. And international football and the national team program doesn't give you an opportunity to do that. So, your leadership skills and being able to have or build really, really strong relationships with players is absolutely fundamental. What you can't be doing every time you have a new camp is to spend 3 or 4 days recapping and getting back up to speed. So, to have a head coach and a coaching team that will support players in their own club environments and can build those strong relationships with the players, with the clubs, is fundamentally a really, really important part of the role. And, as I mentioned also, to be able to view the game slightly different, you need to be an unbelievable planner, international level, because the games come thick and fast. And if you aren't planned and prepared, which takes weeks and months in advance, and that's team operations, the type of environment that you want to go to, the type of hotel, all of those things when you're away for a long, long period of time play a significant part of whether you can be successful or not. So it's not just about the tactics and preparing the team. There's so much work that goes behind the scenes, from an ops and an admin point of view, from a performance point of view, a psychology point of view. And all of those things need to be coordinated, by the general managers and the head coaches to make sure that everybody is aligned to a single vision and a single strategy of what we're going after in tournaments. So it is a very, very different and a very, very unique skill set. And it would be remiss just to go for a coach who was a tactical genius, because you don't always get that time every day, or you don't get that time every day. And the impact you need to have sometimes is when the players aren't with you, and how much time you invest in the care and the attention and the relationships with players and staff is critical to the success, in my humble opinion.
Great. We're going to move to Charlie Boehm, and we have 3 after that, and we'll probably end with those 3. We've got Joseph Lowry, Adam Bells, and Donald Wine. Charlie, you're up.
Thanks. My question is for CBC and JT. I wonder if you could speak to the diversity and representation aspect of this hiring process, where that factored in, and maybe what that pool of finalists looked like in those sense.
Yeah, I can talk to that. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I can tell you when we got down to the final 3 candidates, 2 were diverse candidates, and then obviously Matt as well.
Great.
JT, do you feel that that's that your expectations, or maybe the culture you want, was reflected in that process?
And as we mentioned at the start, we were incredibly focused at the beginning of ensuring we had the sort of widest possible pool of candidates, and men, women from all sorts of different backgrounds, nationalities, and soccer backgrounds, to make sure that we were approaching this in a way that led us to the best positive outcome. And all through the process, we're very intentional about that in each step. And I think as Cindy mentioned, we had a diverse pool the entire time, and that's something that I'm excited about, and excited about what that means for the future of soccer in this country. I think the interest level from candidates all around the world was exciting. 2, the knowledge base about American soccer from candidates outside the United States was impressive, and was a sign of how far soccer has come on the global stage, American soccer. And 3, the diverse talent pool that we saw at home gives us real excitement around what the future looks like for our ecosystem. And so that's something that we're all going to benefit from, and we're going to be able to bring to life as we go forward.
Great. All right, Joseph, you're up.
Fantastic. Thank you all so much for taking time to do this. Matt, congratulations on the new role.
Thank you.
Matt, I'd love to drill down into some of the tactical and stylistic elements that you mentioned earlier, right, for the men's team. You mentioned wanting to build on the foundation that folks like Greg Berhalter set and established over the last few years. With regards to that next U.S. men's team manager, what tactical identity would you like to implement? How would you articulate that to us?
Yeah, sure. I think I used the word fearless earlier on, and a team that is prepared to walk towards the challenge. So, to do that, you need to be confident. Technically, we need players who can be comfortable in what I call managing momentum at international football, because momentum is a big part of it. You guys will watch games and you can see momentum shifting games all of the time, and to have a team that is tactically intelligent and to know that when they're under pressure and have some methods of being able to use the ball through possession to be able to take the sting out of the game is critical at international level. And it clearly comes from players' individual abilities, but then also tactically how you set up the team for them to be able to identify those things. And I guess the key thing for me is I want to make sure that we develop players who can identify and deliver those moments and not necessarily always have to look to the sidelines for the coaches for that. We're going to give the players a huge amount of ownership. So, technically and tactically, we need to be able to play that style. But also when you talk about a fearless team and you talk about the second youngest team in the World Cup and we're a fast and aggressive team, to have the ability to, at the right moments, to be able to play with real speed and real intensity is a key part of the team and the identity that Greg has helped to build, and obviously Anthony is taking forward as well. So we want to grow and build on that because we've got some players with huge potential and huge levels of creativity to be able to identify and then deliver those key moments in games. But I also want to talk about without the ball, and I think it's really important that again, when I talk about fearless, I'm thinking about players who are prepared, or defenders who are prepared to be able to defend 1v1 and not need cover and balance all of the time, that can be aggressive but really solid in defending. And also, players who are comfortable at defending high up the pitch and not always needing space or always needing sort of distances that are less because of the physicality of how quick the game is. So, we want to develop players who are comfortable at pressing high defensively and being really, really aggressive. So, hopefully that just gives you a little flavour of, what I see in the team in terms of the potential. And then also, one of the final things to touch on is, I mentioned about the experiences that the players got through that World Cup experience of playing arguably some of the best teams in the world, your Englands and your Hollands there outside of the group stages. And the players are going to be so much more better prepared for the next time for that. And, that to be able to now start to think about some of the competitive advantage stuff that we can do with the players around making sure that they are even more confident and prepared to deliver in those key moments. International football sometimes just ends up being box to box, and to have the players who can deliver those key moments of scoring and preventing goals is going to be critical for our success going forward. So there's a little bit on recruitment, but there's also a massive bit around development within the team.
Great. We're going to move to Adam.
Matt, I love how you keep talking about the legacy piece, and so you mentioned the class of 2000 that you saw at the U17 World Cup in 2017. A lot of that talent came up through the Development Academy, the U.S. Soccer Development Academy, which is now no longer exists, right? And it's sort of defaulted over to the MLS Next, a lot of high-level youth development. And I wonder, I know it's early, but I wonder, what's your first blush sort of assessment of how MLS Next is doing? And, from a theoretical point of view, would you prefer something more like the Development Academy than MLS Next?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think, I already see, as I mentioned earlier, the infrastructure that is being built across the MLS now, not just necessarily stadia, but, training and support facilities. And again, not just for the senior teams, both on the men's and the women's side, but also for the youth and extended teams. The facility development in there is been significant. Also, what I see is, the MLS, in particular on the boys' side, already you can see the development of coaches. So there's more full-time coaches going into those organisations now. Coach education, there's more education coaches, there's a more diverse games program. I'm already seeing MLS youth academy teams coming over to the UK and playing as well. So they're going to more diverse tournaments across the world. So, all of those things, both from a training perspective in terms of development of the program, but also the games program opportunities that they're getting in a much, much more diverse field, is going to stand the program in great stead going forward. And I know you touched on that the 2000s group, and it was a special group of players that have gone on, but I already see more of those teams coming through the youth systems here. And as an association, the size of the country, the MLS clubs in particular on the boys' side are going to play a significant part in that development. We need to rely on those, and we need to work really, really collaboratively in making sure the coach education is right, the pathway opportunities are right. And I'm really looking forward to learning more and exploring ways that we can do that together, because it has to be collaboratively and joined up.
All right, our final question will go to Donald Wine.
Thank you, Neil, and Matt, Cindy, JT, thank you so much for your time. And Matt, apologies, we're part of team two-part question with this one. I promise you the first one quick. As you know, the youth are in focus this year. You have the U20 World Cup next month before you officially begin full-time. How involved will you be with the team preparations for that tournament? And my second question is on the extended national teams. There's been a lot of focus on those teams in recent years as more have become officially under the U.S. Soccer umbrella, and Stuart Sharp has done a tremendous job in highlighting the efforts of those teams. But what's your plan to elevate awareness and support for those teams that don't get the TV slots and the enhanced visibility, but are just as successful as our senior teams?
Yeah, thank you for saving the best questions for last. Two things. First of all, obviously the under-20s go to the World Cup, which is a fantastic tournament and a fantastic experience that those players are going to get. And again, context. For me to come in and all of a sudden want to get knee deep in the detail, is a challenge because again, understanding the context. I know that the work is already in place. There's a brilliant plan for the team. The coaches, the infrastructure, the performance departments, they're all set up. The administration and the operations side is all ready to go. Of course, I'll be watching from afar, and I'm going to take a really, really keen interest. And I'll definitely have some time with the coaches before they go, and I'll be keen to know the detail of what the schedules look like and the technical plan, etc. That'll just be from a learning perspective, from my point of view. So it'll be the context, and it'll be from a distance. But I'm really excited to see what that team is capable of doing. And then the second part of the question, in terms of the extended national teams, to have the opportunity to sit with Stuart yesterday, and we had an hour together to see his passion for the 9 teams that are already under the banner. To see the excitement and the growth where he wants to take the program. I know, again, I've got a great amount to learn from Stuart and also the other guys that support that program. And again, from my perspective, I want to make sure that I give as much time and as much support to Stuart, knowing and understanding the level of expertise he has got, but also the learnings that I've got to do. As I said to him yesterday, my job is to make sure that I support and challenge you and try and make sure that I give you everything that you need to continue to grow and expand your programs and provide great role models for our children and adults with disabilities in the future.